This is a notice to the public. Well, we call the meeting to order at January 8, 2018, City Council meeting at 5:30 p.m. at 10 West State Street. Notice to the public is as follows. The Mayor and City Council welcome comment from the public during discussion. You're required to step up to the microphone, state your name and your address for the record, and limit the time used to present your remarks in order that others may be given the opportunity to speak. I have inherited two little timing devices, one of which actually goes 3 minutes and 9 seconds. I timed it last Friday. The other one's a little bit shorter than that, the pink one, so you only get about 2 minutes and 18 seconds with that. Anyway, we will call the meeting to order, and those who are able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, will you take the roll call, please?
Cahill.
Here.
Gowdy.
Here.
Hoop.
Here.
Lamer.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Weirin.
Here.
It's time now for the mayor, council, and administrator comments. I have none. Do any of the council members have any?
I have one.
One? Go ahead.
We noticed the new vehicle sitting outside City Hall here tonight, and I want to compliment the chief and his staff on putting together a great vehicle that's going to work real well for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was fun to get the demonstration out there until they turned the bright lights on. I still can't see well. Anything from... I will introduce the major here. Do you have any comments?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. It's my pleasure right now to introduce Major Stillwell, who's here to present an award for whoever it was that won the contest between the fire department and the police station. Welcome.
I am pleased to say that the fire department and police department together raised $1,402.48, and because of knowing both gentlemen, the traveling trophy gets to stay with the fire department, but I have a bell for both of them.
Very good. And you know what's going to be cool next year? It's going to stay in the same building forever. That's just going to be cool.
That's right.
A consent agenda. Would you, Madam Clerk, please read that for us? Oh, yeah, I guess we need a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. We don't get to do it that way, do
No.
we? We roll call it. Roll call, please.
Gowdy.
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Lamer.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Weirin.
Yes.
Cahill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, now would you read the consent agenda for us, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Approve the bill list in the amount of $1,420,634.85. Appoint Justin Strom, replacing Tim Bell, to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. Reappoint Kim Barnes. Term expires January 1st, 2020. Approve the October 2017 financial statements.
Thank you. And can you read item number 6.1 for us, please?
7.
If you would read 7.1, the motion.
Yes. Approve the Iowa retail permit for cigarette, tobacco, nicotine, vapor permits for BW Gas and Convenience Retail, LLC, DBA Yes Way, 1701 Iowa Avenue East, effective January 30 through June 30, 2018, and Eastside Liquor and Grocery, 116 East Nevada Street, effective January 8th through June 30, 2018.
We'd entertain a motion to approve that.
I move for approval.
Second, Your Honor.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Hoop.
Yes.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy.
Yes.
Thank you. That has passed. Would you read item number 7.11?
Approve the comprehensive annual financial report.
Brian DeMoss, Finance Department. In front of you, you have the fiscal year 17 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. This report is on a full accrual basis, which includes receivables, payables, long-term debt, and other liabilities. If you compare this to your monthly financial statements, those only include revenue and expenses, so there's quite a bit of difference between the two reports. This is used mainly by when we have our debt issuances and other federal agencies, so it's kind of a broad-based report. And as it states in your memo, there's two main areas that are key if you want to review the whole report. First is the MD&A, which is a review of the entire year, which starts on page 11, and the compliance section, which the auditors review all of our state compliance and other steps that we complete, and that starts on page 136. Finally, I just want to say thank you to the entire finance staff. We put in a lot of work for this report, and everybody was very, very helpful in completing this. Gladly answer any questions that you have.
Any questions?
Just a comment, Your Honor. So I've looked at plenty of these over the years, and I always flip to the back, to the compliance section. So I just wanted to compliment you. It looks like it was a really clean review and no major issues. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great year. We actually, they actually dropped 2 comments that they've had in prior years, so it was very successful.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Did we get any public written comments from the public?
No, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Thank you.
Your
Is
Honor?
there,
Your Honor, I would move that we accept the report and place it on file.
Second.
thank you. Been moved and seconded that that resolution pass, 8.1. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy.
Yes.
Thank you. That has carried. Would you read item number 8.11, please, Madam Clerk?
Your Honor, could we do 8-1?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Did I miss one?
Yes.
I'm really screwing up already. This is my first public meeting. You know, I've tried 152 jury trials. I don't get nervous at those, but this makes me nervous for some reason. Okay, how about 8.1 then?
Resolution authorizing the Parks and Recreation Department to submit on behalf of the City of Marshalltown a grant application to the Community Foundation related to the skate park upgrade.
Ann Selness, Parks and Rec Director. Our project to upgrade the skate park, add a street art or graffiti wall, and a pump track has been selected as one of 3 final applications for the Community Foundation Major Impact Grant. Our 2018-2028 Park and Rec Master Plan identified a lack of available opportunities for the youth in our city, as well as identifying the skate park as a priority park for Marshalltown. 400 students completed our youth survey and indicated strong interest in a pump track, graffiti or chalk wall, and additional skate park amenities. We actually recently put $55,000 into the CIP, not the $40,000 for this project. I would recommend approval to proceed with applying for this grant.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve that resolution?
I move for approval.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any public comments or written comments, Madam Clerk?
No, Your Honor.
Please call the roll.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
That has carried. Thank you. Yeah, nice work in the park department, by the way. Really, with the Megaton Park and the skate park and Riverside, it's just been fun to watch. Would you, Madam Clerk, read item 8.11, please?
That item is tabled. Is there a motion to discuss this item tonight?
I would move,
Sorry, you have to.
yes, since I put it on the table, I would move that we remove it from the table for full discussion and approval tonight.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Your Honor.
Michelle?
Well, can we do a roll call for the tabled item?
Oh, sure. Let's do the roll call first.
Martin,
Yes.
Weirin.
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lamer.
Yes.
And now the resolution approving application fees for new occupied and unoccupied residential rental properties within the city.
Michelle Sponheimer, Housing Community Development Director. As you know, at the last meeting, we tabled this for some additional information and comparisons for other communities. So I did go some online digging to see what we could find in your memo and the packet for those communities that have some specific fee related to applications for occupied or unoccupied. I've included those. Some of the communities still rely just on a municipal infraction method, which is what we really are operating under currently. Just as a reminder, it's communities that are above 15,000 population that are required to have a rental inspection program. So many communities in Iowa don't have any program at all. And so this highlighted the ones that I could find that had something specific related to applications. Our $500 proposal for the occupied or the unregistered properties. It was in line, I felt like, with many of the others. Some were higher, some were double their fees. That gave a relatively equal comparison to what we were proposing. So I would continue to put forward the $50 initial application for those that are unoccupied, new coming onto the program, and a $500 application if it is already occupied and essentially an unregistered rental that's been in operation.
I move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
since I asked to have this put on the table, first of all, thank you for all the information, and you did a great job. And it looks like that they were within line, and we wouldn't be sued by one of the landlords for the fee schedule like we were on the inspection. So thanks for the information, and I'm in favor of going ahead with it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Lamer. Any public discussion? Did we get any written comments?
No, Your Honor.
Please call the roll.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Declare it has passed. Thank you. Let's go on to item number 9 with ordinances 9.1.
Ordinance to establish the licensing of massage therapy businesses by adding Division 9, Article 4, Chapter 17 of the City Code, first reading.
Chief Tupper.
Good evening, Mike Tupper, Marshalltown Police Department. So you should have a draft ordinance that was sent out to you. City Administrator Kinzer and myself met with several of the local licensed massage therapists recently and had a very productive discussion. And as a result of that discussion, we made some edits or some revisions to the ordinance that we first brought to you a few weeks back. So I think we're in a good position with this ordinance. I think it's important to remember and point out that we're talking about illicit business that we're dealing with. And unfortunately, it's becoming a problem in central Iowa, really across this country. So we're trying to be proactive and be a step ahead so that we have a tool in our toolbox, if we need it, to deal with a criminal enterprise. And it's something that the police department's very concerned about, and I know that the public's very concerned about. But I also want to make sure that we're respecting business and not doing anything that's going to harm businesses that are already in place here. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Martin.
Chief, what type of input did you get from the licensed massage therapists? Can you summarize?
Well,
And maybe we can have further discussion.
yeah, they had some concerns about several sections of the ordinance dealing with the ability to maybe have more of a mobile service, and we want to make sure that they can do that. That's not anything that I'm personally concerned about. We talked about fees and the new version grandfathers in all of the currently existing businesses, so they're not paying the fees. We talked about insurance coverage and made some changes with that language. Roger, am I missing anything?
Hours of business for fixed location sites.
Yeah, we talked about the hours of business for fixed location sites, and that's an important issue, I think, for the criminal side of things, because the hours, the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. hour time frames, tend to be when a lot of the illegal activity might occur at an illicit business. Since we last met, I've reached out to the state of Iowa and staff that works for the board that deals with licensing requirements for massage therapists. And I found that they really don't do much of a criminal background check at the state level, so this ordinance allows us to do that. I actually had an investigator from the Department of Inspection and Appeals call me today about a semi-related issue, and she works on these types of investigations, and at the state level, everybody that I've talked to, they've been very supportive of these ordinances, and they think it's a good idea. So the police department believes it's a great idea, and that's why we're bringing it forward to you. But of course, we respect whatever decision you all make.
Is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
So moved, Your Honor.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, any questions?
I just would like to hear from some of the massage therapists and find out, what it looks like for you all. And I'm really thinking that you all will probably do the best job self-policing and turning in businesses that you think are not. That will help the police department the most, probably of all. You'll hear things. Yes.
Kind of like our Crime Stoppers program, right, Chief?
There are a few of us here tonight. My name is Laura Kiesel, 219 North Elm Street, Gelman. I've been a licensed massage therapist in Marshalltown for 12 years. Licensed massage therapists, that's what we are. Other terms you may have heard do not describe who we are or what we do. To be a licensed massage therapist in the state of Iowa, when I earned my degree, each student had to participate in 500 instructional hours and 100 hands-on hours, so 600 hours of schooling at an accredited school. Upon completion, I had to pass the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork exam. So approximately in 2005, that was an $8,000 investment. Every 2 years, we must participate in continuing education classes to renew our license with the state. These classes can cost hundreds of dollars, even to $1,000 or more, depending on the classes we take, to grow our massage knowledge and our business. All of us here today have done similar things with our educations to be where we are. We feel it is important to educate the community on what it takes to be a licensed massage therapist. It needs to be said that we are all against trafficking of any sort, whether it be human, sex, or drug. We are here today to support each other as we feel this ordinance is only being directed toward our chosen profession, and those of us who are following the law. We don't want to cause the Marshalltown Police Department any issues with cracking down on illicit business in the city. We have met with Chief Tupper and Ms. Kinzer to discuss our concerns and our suggestions. So with the information we present tonight, it is our hope that the council can make an informed decision on this proposed ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have some materials. I hope I made enough copies. Hello, my name is Norma Meade. I am an attorney at Moore, McKibben, Goodman, and Lorenz. I know some of you, but not everybody here. Today I'm here on behalf of my client, Mindy Caesar. She's the owner of Breathe Integrative Therapy, which is a business that's located on 13th Street here in town. Mindy has worked hard to earn her education as a massage therapist, and she's done that for about 14 years now. She's maintained her license through the state of Iowa since she obtained that after graduating from college. She is going to address the council to explain the steps that she had to take in order to get her education, to get her license through the state, and to renew it annually. She will explain to the council the expense that she's had taken on to establish her own business. The state of Iowa already regulates the field of massage therapy. I have made some copies of some parts of Iowa Code Chapter 147, which is the chapter that regulates massage therapy as well as other health-related professions. As you can see, the Code of Iowa requires licensure for massage therapists, and it also sets out some disciplinary procedures for therapists who aren't following the law. Iowa Code 147.55 is one of those sections you have in front of you. It sets out the grounds on which licensees can be disciplined. The code creates a board of massage therapy. It's Iowa Code 147.13, which has further authority to regulate massage therapists and does, in fact, further regulate them. Massage therapists are not allowed to practice in the state of Iowa unless they have a license to do so. It's easy to determine whether a particular massage therapist is licensed to practice in Iowa. There's a website that allows a person to verify licensure, and it makes it really easy to make reports to the board of any perceived illegal conduct. There is an investigative process in place to address complaints that are made to the board. And the Iowa Code has various criminal statutes that should be used by law enforcement to prosecute criminals who are doing illegal things. Obviously, it does take investigation by law enforcement to charge offenders with crimes, and this is the proper way to address those that are trafficking, not to require massage therapists to obtain permits. The problem that Last Watch has identified is human trafficking. However, there's not a relationship between massage therapy and trafficking. So it's illogical to believe that this ordinance is going to diminish sex trafficking in Marshalltown. I did some research about human trafficking and found one article that discusses trafficking in Iowa, and that's the article that I put in front of you. The article is titled, "An Analysis of Human Trafficking in Iowa." There wasn't anything in that article that discussed any relationship between massage therapy and trafficking. It does make some suggestions about how to diminish sex trafficking, and those suggestions are to educate law enforcement on identifying victims of sex trafficking and actually prosecuting those people that are doing illegal things. The ordinance that is proposed wrongly targets massage therapy as a business that needs to be further regulated by the city, where there is no correlation between human trafficking and massage therapy. There are other things that I feel are wrong with the ordinance. The most offensive thing to me is that it allows our chief of police to decide whether someone gets a license or not. And I don't think anyone should have that sort of power over business in Marshalltown. The reasons that the chief can deny the license are varied, and one of those includes the reason that the licensee refuses to allow any police officer or government official to inspect the premises. And it seems wrong that some person from law enforcement would be able to come into your business and demand to inspect it. I don't think any of us in town that are business owners would appreciate that happening in our place of business. And there are many business owners in this room. In my mind, this is just another way for law enforcement to infringe on citizens in the city of Marshalltown and to violate their constitutional rights, I believe. The ordinance gives power to law enforcement that law enforcement has and could abuse, and it shouldn't be allowed. The short of it is that this ordinance isn't going to be effective to deter conduct that it's aimed to deter. And rather than inspecting massage therapy businesses, law enforcement needs to be investigating crime and charging people who commit those crimes with violations of the Iowa Criminal Code and not looking for business permits in our community. So the council shouldn't be misguided into believing that this ordinance is going to prevent trafficking in Marshalltown. I urge the city council and our mayor to refuse to pass this proposed ordinance. Thank you.
I am Rachel Brown, and I reside at 3241 East Main Street Road. My business is located within the Marshalltown YMCA at 108 Washington Street. I am a licensed massage therapist in the state of Iowa. I am a board-certified massage therapist through the national organization known as National Certification Board for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork. I am an active professional member of the national organization known as American Massage Therapy Association. I graduated from the CompTIA accredited and NCTIMBA approved Carlson College of Massage Therapy in Stone City, Iowa. By the state of Iowa, I am a healthcare professional. I have been practicing massage therapy for 17 years. I have been serving the Marshalltown community for 14 of those years. I'm here tonight with a heavy heart. Massage therapy has had a long road of becoming professional. Massage therapists have worked hard, very hard, to move away from what has been happening in years past. Massage parlors, masseuses, masseurs, happy endings, sexual favors. These words tear at our hearts. We are professional massage therapists, not any of those things. This stigma has followed us. We have fought to move away from it. We have fought to be known as professional, providing healthy, healing touch, providing an alternative method for one to be healthy and well and live their very best life. And now, here we are, cities across Iowa, now once again bringing us back. We have been publicly linked to that horrible stigma. The city of Marshalltown currently houses 13 Iowa licensed massage therapists. Not a single one of us wants to see criminals setting up shop as a massage therapy business or any business and performing illegal activities. Not a single one of us wants to see prostitution happening. Not a single one of us wants to see trafficking of any kind happening. These things also tug at our hearts. Absolutely horrific things happening in this world. We cannot agree more. That being said, prostitution and human trafficking are not a massage therapy fight. Massage therapy is being singled out. We are being discriminated against on two major levels, as a profession and as a business. It is just not right. Creating a city ordinance placing restrictions on licensed professional individuals is not going to effectively stop prostitution or human trafficking. That may be hard to hear. It's premature. The implications of it have not been carefully and thoroughly thought out. I ask you tonight to search your hearts. I ask you to consider looking into a different way to stop criminal activity. I ask that you stand with us in keeping our profession one that is not at all associated and linked to illegal activity. Help us educate the city of Marshalltown on what massage therapy is, what the benefits of massage therapy are, and how one can make sure that his or her massage therapist is professional and licensed. Help us hold the state of Iowa accountable. It is already illegal in the state of Iowa to practice massage therapy or to say that you do without holding an Iowa license. Maybe it is possible for the city to create a jurisdiction for all healthcare professionals that allows the city to uphold the already in place state laws. We local therapists are willing to work with you to find a better way. I ask you tonight to deny this proposed city ordinance. I thank you for your time tonight. I thank you for your compassionate hearts. I thank you for all you do for the city of Marshalltown, my hometown.
I'm Tasha Schneider. I reside at 2619 Dillon Road. I own Aspiration Salon and Day Spa located at 204 South 1st Avenue. I've been a licensed massage therapist since 2009, and I also speak on behalf of two of my employees who are also licensed massage therapists. I have invested over 1,200 hours of classes, and I have invested over $20,000 in my profession. Prior to opening our salon company for 5 years, I was the dean of students at one of the nation's leading massage therapy schools. Some of the local therapists here with me tonight are former students of mine. I feel vested in their careers, not to mention the overall integrity of the profession we are also passionate about. It is that integrity that unites us together. To us, obviously, it is not about the financial burden, as some of us are exempt and the initial fees for current therapists would be waived, but it is about singling out law-abiding citizens, creating further burden and stigma on our profession by linking us to such heinous crimes. The ordinance itself is not an ordinance against human trafficking, but reads an ordinance to establish the licensing of massage therapy in the city of Marshalltown, Iowa. Chief Tupper assures us that we are not being singled out. Rather, current trend with the illicit businesses is under the guise of massage. Trends come and go, so how does placing a permanent ordinance on a group of law-abiding citizens stop human trafficking? It doesn't. Human trafficking can occur in any business, and they will switch their trend to accommodate their demand. This will not eliminate the problem other than to push it outside of city limits, but it will still exist. Nationwide, we are in the middle of what seems to be a never-ending war on drugs. The current trend is the opioid epidemic, which is vastly on the rise. Are we proposing additional ordinances and permits on doctors and pharmacists to hold their professions accountable for the criminal behavior of all drug dealers and those who choose to break the law? No. And when we put it into that context, do you see how foolish that sounds? Is there really a difference in the comparison? Two groups of law-abiding healthcare professionals, two epidemics occurring, yet only one is being singled out and held accountable for the actions of non-licensed criminals who have nothing to do with healthcare, who choose to break the law under the guise of our profession. Chief Tupper tried assuring us that this is a positive thing for massage therapists as it gives us yet more credibility, and I beg to differ. As a small business owner, I have a responsibility to those I employ to do everything I can to ensure they have a safe, successful, and rewarding career. As a business who is exempt from this ordinance, I have concerns of how it may be perceived by the public that my therapist would not hold the city permit, and how it could not only affect my business but my employees. Unfortunately, each of us speaking before you has been the recipient of inappropriate jokes regarding our profession. Even more unfortunate, we know the demand for the illicit businesses is already here because we field the phone calls requesting more than a massage. We have dealt with someone in our treatment rooms who clearly does not understand what our profession entails. We deal with this regardless of whether our practice is in a chiropractor's office, a spa, or a massage clinic. By creating a separation between those forced to obtain a local permit and those who are not, does that put the therapist I employ at further risk of such lewd behaviors? Will the public question the legitimacy of my therapist since they wouldn't have the permit under my employment? Will they decide to go against a therapist who is required to obtain the proposed? Will they decide to go to a therapist who is required to obtain the proposed permit solely based upon they feel that therapist has been thoroughly researched and therefore they deem as safe? With my employee's incomes based upon his commission structure, any loss of massage business would not only affect me, but would also affect the income of those I employ. And let me be clear, my fear of separating ourselves from this permit is not me supporting this ordinance. With a 45% increase in 2017, my salon company is preparing for some major expansions in 2018 as we celebrate 5 years here in Marshalltown. We more than doubled our staff in 2017, and it has been extremely fulfilling providing rewarding careers to those in the community. Having reached our 2018 projected service sales in 2017, our projections estimate that we will need to hire another 7 to 8 employees here before the end of the year to keep up with our demand. With my background in massage therapy, it has become the anchor of our salon company, with over a third of our business coming strictly from massage. Should the proposed ordinance take effect, any potential risk to our massage therapy department would definitely halt any plans for further growth until we have a better idea for how it would affect our service sales. This would be detrimental not only to our service providers and our company, but also to the growth of Marshalltown as we continue to grow and hire people who work, support, and live in our community. For the past several years, through personal donations, I have supported Inc. 180, a ministry in Oswego, Illinois, that provides free tattoo removal for reformed gang members and survivors of human trafficking. I have supported the Polaris Project, whose mission is to eradicate modern-day slavery networks, as well as the International Justice Mission, whose mission is to protect the poor from violence by rescuing victims, bringing the criminals to justice, restoring survivors to safety and strength, and helping local law enforcement build a safe future that lasts. Many of those who have been rescued have been survivors of various forms of human trafficking. 3 of my top charities all involve human trafficking, and I tell you this to ensure you that I stand with you in your fight, but I do stand in opposition of this ordinance, as I do not believe an ordinance placing restrictions on law-abiding citizens will protect our community from criminals who have no problem breaking the law. Thank you.
My name is Claire Hencken. I reside at 127 East Main Street, loft number 1. And my massage therapy business is located within Breathe Integrative Therapy at 204 North 13th Street. I think I can speak for hopefully everyone in the room when I say that human trafficking is a heinous, horrific violation of basic human rights of great magnitude, which desperately needs to be put to an end. My heart aches for the innumerable victims out there that are in desperate need of help and rescue, and my support, praise, and admiration go out to those groups and individuals, not only in our community, but across the globe, that are trying with all their power to combat this epidemic. With that being said, I do not agree with the route that some in our community are proposing we take to try and solve this. Massage therapy is a highly respected field of therapeutic bodywork that has had to fight over the years to be separated from those who detestably choose to use our respected name as a front for their illicit activities. But through our education, our certification, our licensing, and our partnerships with community organizations, businesses, and medical professionals, we have overcome the stigma that was created by these unlawful individuals and have become a reputable field for health and wellness. What saddens me today is that with this ordinance, by trying to solve one devastating problem, we are simultaneously taking many steps back where there has previously been beautiful forward progress and growth. This appears to be happening because we are not taking the time to truly come at this from all sides, exploring laws and regulations that have already been put into place, and truly understanding just how this affects all parties involved. We massage therapists have witnessed many statements firsthand in either correspondences we have read or have personally taken part in regards to this ordinance about our profession that have either been blatant misrepresentation or have unfortunately been misinformed or uneducated. I recently moved back to Marshalltown from Boulder, Colorado, a place where massage therapy is widely respected, understood, and recognized in the wellness field. So this mindset I have been witnessing lately has shocked and disheartened me tremendously. It was a hard choice for me to leave such a forward-thinking community to return to my hometown, but I had been drawn back by many of the projects and movements I had heard were happening right here in Marshalltown, and I was excited to bring my beautiful healing practice back to my hometown and be a part of a great community of massage therapists that was already established here. Soon after returning to Marshalltown and establishing a successful small business, I was asked to take part in a project with Vision Marshalltown. After learning more about this organization, I was excited to collaborate. One of the focuses that is outlined on Vision Marshalltown's page is to, quote, have and convey a culture of pride and respect with a reputation as a great community in which to live, work, and play. And one thing I specifically addressed in the video was that nothing beats a community that backs you and truly wants to see you succeed. When making this video, I truly believed I was talking about this community. But this ordinance has really made me question the truth in the words of that optimistic woman speaking only one short year ago. The people in support of this ordinance may say it is for the good of massage therapists, but I can assure you, as it stands now, it is not. Not only is this not going to stop human trafficking, only making them start a new trend in what business front they choose to use, but what it is doing is taking a respected field of healing, one that provides numerous reputable and successful small businesses in this community, and puts it in direct correlation with some of the most horrific, atrocious violators out there. Human trafficking must be stopped, and as massage therapists, we are willing to explore other options in order to come up with a plan that would do that. But I do not support singling out and discriminating against a line of work that is a key part of making this community continuously grow and thrive, and one that deserves to be respected and valued like any other legitimate business in town. We should not only want to stop illegitimate, unlawful people from entering this community, but we should strive to uphold the goals of our community members and organizations to create a town that attracts young professionals, such as myself, to want to bring their education and skills to a town that will value their business and help it to grow and succeed, instead of putting it in direct association with major criminals. I thank everyone involved for their time and their dedication to making this community the best that it can be, and I look forward to moving ahead in a positive, productive direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's working.
My name is Mindy Caesar. I live at 602 4th Street in Gladbrook. I'm a licensed massage therapist and have been for 13 years. I'm contracted through many prominent businesses in town for on-site chair massage. I am contracted through Iowa River Hospice for on-site massage therapy with their clientele. I own Breathe Integrative Therapy at 204 North 13th Street in Marshalltown. It's a holistic healing center currently housing 3 practitioners, 2 of which are licensed massage therapists. I also do craniosacral therapy, and the 3rd practitioner is a Reiki master and life coach. It's my intention to expand the business to include alternative therapies, such as yoga, acupuncture, art therapy, guided meditation, and so on. It occurred to me that just because I know what's gotten me here today, maybe not everyone in this room or on the City Council board really knows what being a licensed massage therapist means. I attended the Center for Massage and Natural Health in Asheville, North Carolina, earning a certification for massage therapy in 2004. It was a 6-month program, which is standard, with the majority of focus on anatomy, physiology, and hands-on training, learning how to put together the knowledge of anatomy and physiology into a treatment routine with Swedish massage. All throughout my education, there was a strong emphasis on the ethics of this business, clear communication for treatment intentions, good linen draping techniques that ensure a feeling of safety for both practitioner and client, and how the experience each client has with us defines the whole of the profession. I think it's worth mentioning that the school interviewed me in order to attend, did their own background check on me, and will not graduate people who cannot pass the exams or who display any inappropriate behavior during the 6-month duration. Shortly after graduation, I studied like crazy and took the national exam, which most states require for state licensure. This is a comprehensive, in-depth exam covering all that you learned in school, plus additional information on different well-known modalities, such as Chinese medicine theory and practice. I took my exam through the National Certification Board for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, who, by the way, does their own background check when you apply to take the test. Once you receive confirmation from the national testing that you indeed passed, you apply for your massage therapy state license, who then checks to be sure that you attended a state-approved school for the required number of hours, took and passed the testing, then they send you a state license assigning you a number. Here's my state license, so that you all can recognize what that should look like. You can clearly see that they will send you a duplicate when you lose the original. It just stamps across the front, duplicate. The state requires us to hang this in our office in a visible place, and I encourage you to ask your practitioner to see theirs. They should have it on display. If they refuse to show you, you can call the Iowa Department of Public Health Massage Therapy Board and file a complaint, which will result in an investigation. In all, after school, testing, insuring, buying a table and supplies, it cost me around $10,000 just to start practicing. The state of Iowa legally grants state licensing, investigations, and disciplinary action through the Iowa Department of Public Health. Anyone in Iowa who has an occupation requiring a state license can be searched through the online search page of their website. It's free to the public and takes minutes to complete. I did one this morning, just a generalized one, showing everybody in the state of Iowa who is either practicing or not practicing. I've underlined mine. There's quite a bit of information there that they give you in the search. As you can see, it has names, license numbers, addresses, and a status for each license. If you want to do a search on an individual, any of this information can be used to search with. You can also receive more information about each licensee to see if any disciplinary action has ever been required. If you don't see a practitioner on the list, you should notify the Iowa Department of Public Health Massage Board immediately and file a complaint. Also, I found a nationwide website giving direct access to each individual state massage board website. It's called the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards, or FSMTB. And I think I have the website here for you. Yep, right there. With this site, I was actually able to find myself in seconds on the North Carolina Board of Massage and Bodywork site. I could very quickly see that my license expired in 2009 and is inactive. You could potentially investigate if I had an active license, any disciplinary actions, or license revoke within minutes. Hopefully now you have an idea of the dedication we as licensed massage therapists have had to have just to get started in our field and how easy it is to verify who is licensed. The continued comparison between licensed therapeutic massage and any other illicit business needs to stop. I personally resent the implication that my occupation needs assistance to become validated through city policing and extra permitting in a reaction to illegal activity that has nothing to do with any of the people in my occupation. I am a state licensed massage therapist, and I am already validated. 13 years of licensed practice has allowed me to improve the lives of hundreds of people. Physical pain can be debilitating, and massage therapists help people to diminish or relieve that pain completely. We help facilitate recovery from your injuries and surgeries and diminish scar tissue buildup. We help your pregnant wives and sisters enjoy pregnancy by easing the muscle strains of growing new life. We help your family members who are dying by giving them a few moments of peace, a memory of what their bodies felt like before their illness. We help local businesses improve productivity and employee morale by loosening up the tension caused by repetitive motion or stagnation. We help those of you who are athletes stay at top performance by ensuring maximum range of motion and circulation. Studies are coming out all the time about how massage therapy helps to decrease high blood pressure, depression, anxiety, even symptoms of PTSD, while increasing regular sleep, normal digestive function, coping mechanisms, pain tolerance, and general feeling of well-being. This doesn't even really speak to the emotional, spiritual, or psychological healing that safe therapeutic touch can facilitate. We have an amazing job, and every one of us is passionate about providing the best care that we can for people. None of this is possible, however, if the community does not have faith and trust in us to provide a safe environment where healing can occur. The fact that someone tells the lie of association with us is not reason to cast doubt on us or to hold us responsible for their actions. Prostitution has been in Marshalltown a very long time. Any one of us can tell you how infuriating it is to deal with those who are looking for it. As I assure you, we have all dealt with these people through the years. I will add that it's indiscriminate of sole massage therapy businesses, chiropractic offices, or salons. Though I have never had knowledge of sex trafficking in Marshalltown, the idea is truly horrific. Every one of us here tonight agree that we as a community need to do something to combat both of these crimes. If you believe the state of Iowa is not doing enough or the police department wants more jurisdiction, then let's look at what Marshalltown can do to utilize what is already available without discrimination. Let me point out that the people who commit these crimes, they are not licensed massage therapists. This ordinance will not stop prostitution and sex trafficking. This is not a solution to these crimes. Thank you to the police department for all that you do to keep our community safe. Thank you to groups like Last Watch, who strive to give aid to victims of sex trafficking who need our help. And thank you, council members, so much for your time and service, for allowing all of us here tonight to have a voice, and for being able to make the tough decisions that govern our community.
Thank you.
No smiling allowed. Mr. Mayor, council members, I have great respect for everything that you do. having a background of being in this kind of responsibility. I had the
And I know that you're our former state senator. You're on the Board of Regents. Obviously, we know each other. But for the record, I have to have you introduce yourself and give your address. Sorry. I've already screwed up enough already.
Joel, that's why we have you here, to straighten us all out. Larry McKibben, 1703 Robertson Drive, Marshalltown, Iowa.
Thank you.
I am an attorney, and in appropriate reporting, I formed one of these enterprises as an attorney, and I've had an opportunity to go through what I listened to today was painful for me as a chamber member and as a business person and a growth person for small business. I know where you're at, and if this isn't painful for you today, then I'm missing it a long ways. The chief knows that I'm a law enforcement person in spades, and I support the law enforcement. But I can tell you this is the wrong approach. And what's interesting to me is that in the Des Moines Register editorial that was in your Sunday paper yesterday, you will find that the editorial talked about things that needed to be done. So I cite you to page 40P of the Des Moines Register editorial from yesterday. And when I read this yesterday, and I knew that I was coming tonight because simply as a citizen of this community, I felt like I owed it to myself to be here and to my friends that are starting small businesses. You'll see reform job licensing laws. Conservatives frequently advocate the elimination of burdensome government. Well, I'm a conservative. Regulations that may stifle economic growth. A Republican-controlled Iowa legislature should be scrambling to reform the state's job-killing occupational licensing laws. As this editorial board has repeatedly written, Iowans should not need 2,100 hours of training and a government license to cut hair, or permission from the state to file a fingernail, interpret sign language, pluck an eyebrow, or be a milk sampler. 1/3 of Iowa's adult workforce now must obtain government permission to earn a living, a higher percentage than in any other state, according to a 2015 White House report. Last legislative session, lawmakers hastily cobbled together a licensing reform bill that lacked any coherent principles about which workers would be licensed and raised more questions than it answered. And then I underlined, they should craft a thoughtful bill requiring government oversight only for workers who may put public health and safety at risk. And I'll read that one more time because I underlined this in red. And everything I heard today, if I was chairing a subcommittee today, would be on this. They should craft a thoughtful bill requiring government oversight only for workers who may put public health and safety at risk. I can tell you, I read this ordinance for the first time a couple of days ago. Had this bill come to me as a subcommittee chairman in the Senate, this bill wouldn't have gotten out of subcommittee. Simply wouldn't have gotten out of subcommittee. And you're going to say, why? McKibben, why wouldn't this get out of committee? Go to page 2, section 17-176, application for license. That application for license is going to drive people back to Colorado and other places to go to start a business if you read everything that has to be done there. And I'll go on page 3 at the top, G. Such other information or consents as the chief of police may require for purposes of conducting a background check. If it is determined that a nationwide background check is required, and I underline this in red, the applicant may be responsible for the expense to complete the background check. I went through, and I'm a business attorney and a tax attorney. I went through A through I here, and all I saw from my clients was cost. And I'm talking to you big cost. Well, you got people starting, and you've heard some of the costs already from the people that were here. It's nothing but cost. But then from a real standpoint of governance, I go to page 4. And they get into, the police department can get into tracking personal time costs. They can get into the businesses of these small affairs to check the program to see if they fit some kind of a metric that would cause them to lose their license. This is after the fact. And granting a denial of a license simply belongs to one person. And again, as I told you, this bill wouldn't get out of committee if it was in the legislature tomorrow or next week. So I'm going to complete this because I know I'm probably past 3 minutes. Mr. Mayor, thank you kindly for letting it go, but I noticed you let a few other past 3 minutes.
You're okay.
I assume you have put that away. But I will go then to the other one. Interestingly enough, was in the Register today, Monday, and it's on page 2B, if you have the Register and you want to look at it. And again, I've highlighted one thing that I'd like to close with the reading. This is a problem, and I don't dispute that we have a problem. We have all sorts of problems in law enforcement in this community and keeping people safe, and we understand what's gone on in Washington, D.C. and out in Los Angeles and other places. All of the things that are going on in this world are a whole lot different than we're used to. There's not a person that wants more law enforcement to keep people safe and secure than I do. But when I read this, this doesn't do it. So I want fact-based data is really important to you, so I hope you'll go back and read this. But I just had a little fact-based data to give to you. In the United States, Polaris, an organization that helps human trafficking victims, said many workers at restaurants, food trucks, and bars lured to the country from the other nations are forced into a form of slavery, working long hours, living in cramped facilities, and forced into debt. And this is a USA Today network investigation last year found that hundreds, if not thousands, of truckers are working as indentured servants. The problems that you're trying to solve here are everywhere, all over. But what you have created here in this document goes absolutely opposite of what our chamber is trying to do in this city, is to grow this city, start small businesses. You heard all of those people that started small businesses doing a good business, and you have picked up the massage therapy business as the one you're going to sink. With that, I respect your consideration. I ask for it, and I can tell you that this is the wrong methodology, and I hope you vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Wally Page, 2901 South 2nd Street, South Side. Thank you for thinking about the ordinance. I appreciate the excellent massage therapists in Marshalltown. They are highly trained, and I hear comments from friends all the time of how much we need them. I know for myself, I have been helped by massage therapists. Physical, pressure points, cranial treatments. With my workload, if I didn't have a massage therapist and do it regularly, I would be in deep trouble, and I admit to that. We're talking about the ordinance really to deal with trafficking, and there may be other ways we can deal with it. But if you say no, then we'll have to go back and look for other ways in which we can deal with trafficking that's all around us. The folks, when they come in, have very good lawyers. It really make it hard to get into the under the system that they're running. That's a criminal behavior organization. And then they use fake licenses. They move people around so fast you can't find them. And we need to continue to focus on those issues. Human trafficking is the issue. Again, I hope that we can find a way in which we deal with the issues that are around us. Yes, trafficking is all around us in the most crazy and difficult places. Thank you.
Mayor Greer and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you regarding the proposed licensing requirement for massage therapy businesses operating within Marshalltown. Proposed licensing requirement for businesses operating. We haven't been talking about licensing massage therapists.
I'll embarrass myself if I don't interrupt. We
all
all know.
I'm sorry. I am. My next paragraph is, my name is Kay Beach.
Thanks, sorry.
I live at 408 Edgeland Drive in Marshalltown.
Still miss your husband, too.
I've lived in Marshalltown since 1970, and I've come to love this town. I care deeply about the welfare of all of its citizens. I want this to be a community where anyone living or visiting here is safe. My support of an ordinance requiring the licensing of any business which practices massage therapy within the city is based on that desire for safety. It is not based on any bias against massage therapy or its legitimate practice. As I see it, this ordinance is intended to act like a vitamin pill to maintain the good health of our community. Its purpose, and this is going to sound light, but the purpose is to lock our barn door before the horse thief gets in. The horse thief is the human trafficker who uses a massage business site as a stop on the highway along which sex slaves are acquired and transferred between large cities. Interstates 80 and 35, which intersect in the Des Moines area, are now known to be major thoroughfares in sex trafficking. A massage business in Newton has been identified as one such stop. That is way too close for comfort. That's 26 miles down the road. We need to be proactive to protect our vulnerable young people from the thieves and also to keep our town from becoming a stop along that sex trafficking highway. Please lock our barn door against those horse thieves and human traffickers. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Mr. McKibben had more time, so can I take some of his time?
He was only about 10 seconds over.
I just want to make it very clear that I have a great deal of respect for the massage therapists in the room. They've worked very hard to become the professionals that they are, and I have used massage therapy. My wife has used it, and heavens knows I could probably use some right now. Okay, it's Monday, it's stressful, this meeting is going long, but yeah, locally, they gave me some grief, okay. I told the group when we met that I recently, in fact, it was on my birthday, my 48th birthday, went to a couples massage, but I made the mistake of going to a business in Des Moines. So I won't make that mistake again. But I would like to, I guess I'll point out that the city of Johnson has passed this type of ordinance, and massage therapy is thriving there, and other communities are doing the same thing. And we're not trying to compare illicit, illegal activity to the quality work that you all do. What you do is important, and we appreciate the work that you provide and the service that you provide in our community. But what I will tell you, law enforcement officer for 25 years, I have direct experience investigating and managing the investigations of illicit massage businesses going back to the early 90s. And once these businesses open up their front door and establish a foothold in your community, they're very difficult to get rid of. And through my direct experience as a law enforcement professional for 25 years, and in researching this particular issue, I know that the state of Iowa is not going to come in, rush in to help us when there's been some sort of license violation. It's just not going to happen. And I've talked to communities that have dealt with this issue, and they're not getting a lot of or a lot of help from the state of Iowa. And I really wish Mr. McKibben was back in the legislature, because maybe we'd get somebody at the state level to help us with this. But right now, we're kind of on our own, okay? This is a serious problem, and I agree with what's been said. We're not going to stop sex trafficking with just this one ordinance. But this is a tool in our toolbox. And as a professional, you ask me to provide you with professional advice and tell you what I need to do our job. And I truly believe that we need this ordinance to help us deal with the problem of sex trafficking and to try to prevent it from coming into our community. If this doesn't pass, we'll find another way. But I think that this will be an effective tool to help us. Now, I can't have just one tool. I need a tool belt full of stuff. This is a step in the right direction for me. Sex trafficking is a big business, big criminal enterprise in this world. Fastest growing crime in the world. And if you go home tonight and get on Backpage.com, you can find a section that's devoted to I'll call it prostitution, but it's sex trafficking is what it is. And a lot of the businesses that are advertised online are connected to illicit massage business. And we're trying to stop that from coming into our communities. So I'm dedicated to working with the entire community and working with you all to find solutions for these problems. I would point out in the 6.5 years that I've worked here, I can still count on one hand the number of times I've come to you and said to you that we need an ordinance. I believe in smaller government. I'm a conservative, and typically I'm not in favor of passing more laws. But in this case, I think it's necessary. And so my professional recommendation is that we move forward with this, all due respect to the professionals that spoke to you tonight. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have for me.
Any questions?
I do have a couple of questions for Chief Tepper. When several of our guests have identified the state licensing and the licensing procedures that they go through, yeah. If you receive a complaint, is there no action you can take without this ordinance? What type of action could you take without this ordinance?
I can't enforce the state licensing requirements. I don't have the authority to do that. We could report that to the licensing board. But I'll tell you, they're overwhelmed with complaints right now, and they have a lack of resources. And they're not going to, in a timely manner, come down and investigate. And when somebody applies for a license at the state level, because I asked this question specifically of a staff member with the state of Iowa about a month ago, what kind of background check did they go through? They rely on self-reporting of criminal activity. They don't really do a background check. And what this ordinance does is allows us to do that. So,
if I, as a citizen, felt an establishment on my street or in my neighborhood was having illegal activity, and maybe they had been, whatever their service that they were providing, can I just call and say, is there a way you can check this out? Because people are coming and going at all hours of the day and night. And then do you have the opportunity to go in and investigate?
No. Here's what I'll tell you about that. Without this ordinance, if you called us, I mean, because we get these kind of calls dealing with drug trafficking all the time. We can set up surveillance operations. We can start long, time-consuming, resource-intensive criminal investigations, and we do that many times. And a lot of times those investigations will result in a dead end for us. This is just one tool that would help us at the front end try to prevent an illicit business from setting up. Without this ordinance, if an illicit business sets up and we start getting complaints about traffic in and out and illegal activity taking place inside, there's lots of avenues that I'll utilize to try to investigate that criminal activity. But I'll tell you right now that it'll be very expensive, it'll be time consuming, and it'll be very difficult to actually, because I've done it. I've put informers, I've put undercover police officers into illicit massage businesses. And it's very difficult to even get them in there, and once you're inside to actually get the evidence that you need to prosecute a crime, also very difficult. We'll try those things, but it's not going to be easily accomplished.
One of the
Thank you.
things that Chief Tupper keeps talking around but doesn't actually say it, this is basically making a civil penalty and making it a civil violation versus a criminal violation, which he talked about how much has to go into that. This would basically create a situation where if somebody is not in compliance with the ordinance, we would cite them with a municipal infraction, which gets them in front of a judge. And so it takes it completely on the civil side of things and does not go to the criminal side of things as sort of the easier path from what a true investigation and trying to collect evidence of a criminal violation requires.
I have another question.
Actually, if you're going to talk, the people that are watching this on TV, and there are more than 2 or 3 of them, it turns out. But if you're going to ask a question, you kind of need to do it by introducing yourself, your address, and being on the microphone.
Yeah, my name's Amber Warnell. I'm a cosmetologist. I have been here since 2009. If the state wasn't going to do anything, then why would they do it at the nail salon over by Walmart? They were fined like $10,000 for not having clean supplies. So if the state's not going to do anything, then I don't know why they would do it for a nail salon rather than massage therapy or hairstyling for that matter.
And I have no idea about the investigations he's talking about, but I'll tell you from my personal experience in dealing with some of these state bureaucracies and regulators, they might come in eventually and do something. But we get a complaint today, it may be months or a year or more before they take any kind of action because they have limited resources. So I don't know anything about the specific circumstances, and we're talking about a different type of business as well. From my personal experience in dealing with the state of Iowa, when you have an issue with an illicit massage business, they're not going to come in and help. They're going to be very slow to respond. That's been my professional experience.
Yeah, well, salon, massage therapy, nail techs, they all kind of go hand in hand. So you cannot just segregate massage therapy. I mean, they go to school just as long as we have. You would destroy lots of businesses, including my own. It's just that you say that the state won't do it, but I've seen them do it. I've seen them shut down people. The only people they can't shut down are people who are not licensed and are people who aren't doing it the correct way.
Other questions?
I have another question, and I don't know whether it goes to the city attorney or not, but we have heard from our guests again that we are singling out massage therapists, and as our last speaker said, some of this goes hand in hand, whether it's a nail salon or a hair salon or another business that may be tied to that. Are we putting ourselves at risk for singling out a specific occupation with this, with the ordinance as it is written?
My initial reaction is no, we're not. People file lawsuits all the time over things that you would think there wouldn't be disagreement about. But, and I can't guarantee what someone may or may not do, but I don't believe that it's discriminatory. No.
Thank you.
But to your point, Ms. Cahill, maybe it's not. Maybe this isn't the entire answer. About 7 speakers ago, I was ready to table it. So I moved to table this for more study.
Could we have a little more discussion?
More discussion.
I would second that motion. I appreciate the information we were given tonight, and I feel I need to look further into that.
I have a cheat sheet up here that tells me that a motion to table is not debatable.
Damn it.
And so let's take the roll.
I have a question because we had a motion on the table to approve the first reading of the ordinance. So
Right.
does that become null And then we go to the
Right.
table?
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Roll call. Gowdy?
Yes.
Hoop?
No.
Lamer?
No.
Martin?
Yes.
Weirin?
Yes.
Cahill?
Yes.
Passed.
Carried.
4-2.
It is tabled. Let's go to item number 10.1.
Fiscal year 2019 budget, capital improvement plan, and capital expenditure purchases.
And if I may interrupt you, for those of you that have come and we're interested in one issue, you don't need to stick around. We don't hold it against you if you just leave. You're welcome to stay, but you don't need to.
Thank you for coming forward, though.
Before, and I voted for.
Oh, I figured
Sorry.
it now, too.
Sorry.
Initially, I thought there was going to be a win-win-win. Breaks the table.
Yeah.
Well, one of their.
Just the summary sheet.
Jesus Christ.
Do you,
They are going to be grandfathered in, so they won't have the same license as some. We can write the ordinance, so those
Okay.
people grandfathered in, if they meet the state requirements, can have their little Marshalltown certificate, so they won't be licensed. They will not be different than the new ones coming in.
Soon need to take a bathroom break.
And we heard that from several of them, they would have the Marshalltown thing.
Go back to
because
computer.
I wasn't sure.
They would.
They would.
They would still get a
They
license.
brought up some good points, I thought.
You've got to apply for it to get it.
Stuff that you would never think about.
But you don't have to pay the fees.
I thought we were just gonna give them to them because they're grandfathered in.
No, it says they don't have to pay fees.
I never did see that.
Sure, I mean, what's the purpose in giving them a license if you don't know anything about them?
Are we adjourned? What are we doing?
can you see that?
You're gonna have to zoom in, get easier. With the mouse.
How many of these people?
I was gonna say it's down in the corner, the lower.
Lower right.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, we put it on hold.
That's what I thought too. I guess not.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. The city department directors and the city administrator have been busy putting together the 5-year capital improvement plan, which we refer to as CIP. This year, in addition to the project name and amount that you have received in the past, we have also provided a description, justification, and budget impact. So I hope this is helpful to you. This is a draft for your review. The city has not received our final property tax valuations from the county yet, so the funding available may need to be adjusted yet.
Goddamn.
Other funding sources include road use tax, local option sales tax, grants, donations, TIF funds, enterprise fees, etc. We will incorporate any changes you have tonight into our January 26th meeting item. The directors are here to answer questions if you need more detail than what you have been provided. So we'll start with Fund 030, the CIP fund. So this is a fund that is solely funded with property tax dollars. The maximum we can levy is 67.5 cents per $1,000 of taxable valuations. So we are estimating $561,000 for FY19 in property tax valuations for CIP. And we're going to split this between Fund 30 for $455,000 and Fund 32, which is $106,000. So if you look on your page 1 of your document, you can see those numbers listed under revenue, property taxes. Everybody follow?
Mm-mm.
Okay, you're on page 1.
Mm-hmm.
Under revenues,
Mhm.
the third row of numbers under property taxes, FY19, $455,000. Here we go.
I found it now.
About 2/3 of the way back, right?
Yeah. Not page one.
It's page page one, about 2/3 of the way back.
Oh, well.
Sources and use,
that
right?
makes- That makes a big difference.
So there's 2 page ones, I take it.
Well, I've got one page, about 2/3 here.
Ah.
Just zoom in on that and use the mouse to kind of show.
City of whatever.
Here.
You have to go the other way.
There it is.
Go to the plus. Yep.
Well, it looks like that. Keep going.
So that it's visible, so that we can see it from.
Where you at now?
On page one.
Another one.
How
Keep
many?
zooming.
There's 4 page ones right now.
Well, this is the one you want.
I'd do it one more time, yeah.
Okay.
You tell me what.
Sources and uses of funds.
See, it's about that thick.
Right here.
Date on the bottom is December 20.
We've got it back on the projector now, so hopefully you can see it.
Yeah, well, you gotta see it first. Right now, I'm counting 4 page ones. Pages
Right.
one, whatever the.
So there are, with the agenda, there were multiple things. One of the first things that was included in the packet was a CIP project summary by fund, which is not going to include any of the project detail sheets.
Okay.
And then there was CIP Fund 030, which is the summary sheet, but then with each project detail sheet behind it. And that's where you get into then, it's broken down by the project detail sheets by fund. So right now, are we on the bigger report, or the bigger fund report, or are we on the project detail report?
The bigger summary one.
Okay.
Okay. So is your preference to go project by project or just go by fund by fund? Fund by fund, you have had the justifications and the item details. So do you have any questions on Fund 30? Okay, we'll move on to Fund 31.
Building maintenance.
So Fund 31, Building Maintenance, page 4, has been funded with the CIP levy in the past, but we have had funds available in the last several years due to the sale of a city building, which the proceeds were designated to go towards the maintenance of other city buildings. So on this first row here, we're just going to be using the fund balance. Can't find my mouse here. So this is just fund balance. There's no new revenues coming in. So that's how these projects are supported. One new item is this one right here, to remodel City Hall first floor for the finance department. So right now, 2 of us are upstairs, 3 of us are downstairs. And there are certain days when it's pretty slim downstairs. There may only be 1 person down there. So by a finance department, the other 3 of us moving downstairs will have sight of vision, so we can see the front door, and it'd just be a lot more efficient. So that one is a new project. You will notice at the end of fiscal year 22 that it does go negative. It does go negative over here. It's primarily from the Senior Citizen Center. So we put in the costs to update that building, but as you can see, we have a shortfall. So
I don't even see a 30.
put it in fiscal year 22, so you have plenty of time to think about how we're going to take care of that building.
And you'll recall from our strategic planning session that was a discussion we had related to the senior center and just deferring all projects until we really knew the future of the Coliseum. And so that's what we're showing here. But if you did take out that 105,000, there still would be a positive, no, there would not be a positive balance. It still would be negative. So there's some issues there with that one that we'll have to correct before we get that in final form. But the idea was to have that show that the 105,000 was what would keep us negative. So it was really putting things directly back on that project.
So is there any other questions on Fund 31?
Sorry. So it took us a while to get there, but we got there. So you were talking about the finance department. Okay. So that is in City Hall, that section?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
$23,000.
Okay. Thank you.
20
I see it now.
23,000. Shouldn't the work on the old police building be included in here? Under City Hall?
That is City Hall building system improvements, which is the item that's ahead of that. In talking with Dave Daters, there are a number of building systems that would need to be converted to City Hall as a standalone. And so we went through those with some cost estimates and have put that out there as a project in fiscal year, I think, 2020.
Okay, then. I thought I saw in here somewhere the demolition of that building too, didn't I?
I think in the project description, I've left it very descriptive. There is not a separate project for demolition of that building. Right now, we're just saying that we know that there are systems we would have to disconnect, which we would be doing if we would be selling the building, disposing of the building, or tearing it down. So right now, it's just focused on the systems that we know have to be moved, noting that that's a future discussion that this council is going to have.
I didn't see in the revenue part anywhere for any one of the years where we showed the sale of the old fire building.
Yes, I think that's, again, we were being, pretty conservative here, didn't want to put anything out there in terms of a revenue estimate, but we do know that there are plans that if we can sell either of the buildings or both of the buildings, that we would intend to do so.
One of them, not two. The one over here needs to come down.
Future discussion.
So anyway, if we did sell the fire building, you'd have more revenue in
Okay.
this fund.
All right.
Any other questions on the Fund 31? We'll go on to Fund 32. So this is a new fund that we set up. The reason is that in our cash management policy, it says that we need to keep 15% of the CIP levy for large purchases. So as I noted before, in Fund 30, we put about $455,000 in there of our total that we were going to collect. And so we're putting the balance in here, $106,000. And that's to help fund this, to redo the fire truck, $425,000. So you can see it's growing, revenue's growing, and then we spend it. So this is just a way for us to keep track of that 15% that we're required to do. Any questions on that? Okay. So road use tax. Road use tax, we collect over $3 million a year, and so we just allocate $1,095,000 each year. We can allocate more than that. We just kind of use that as a target, but you will notice that it does go negative at the end of 18. I'm sorry, at the end of 19. So it's not really negative. We just need to allocate more to it, or we need to use the fund balance that's in there. There's over $4 million fund balance. So we do have the money to do that. So we could, when I bring it back to you next time, we could go in there and increase this so it zeroes out so it doesn't look like a negative amount. If that's more easily understandable.
You lost me.
Okay. Can you see on the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So see here, it goes negative at the end of fiscal year 19.
Yes.
Okay. So this $1,095,000 it was just an estimate. That's what we've always used, but we could use more because we generate over $3 million in road use tax every year, and we have fund balance dollars left over as well.
Okay.
So we could change this $1,095,000 number and allocate more towards it of the road use tax, so it doesn't look like it's going negative. We just have to have more revenue sources.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. I don't like negative numbers.
Right. So are there any questions on the road use tax fund? Okay, moving on. So Fund 121, local option sales tax. You remember this summer, the voters changed the allocation. So now the allocation is 78% property tax relief and 28% council designated, but we still have some money left over to use for road projects and other public work projects. So we're just spending that down. Any questions on that one?
Only what page was that one? The link, there wasn't a link to that.
Not a link on that.
It is, the link that you need to be on is CIP project summary by fund draft 1. So it's the second item on that list.
Okay.
Yep. It's
the
page
rest.
8 of.
Okay, all the rest were individually listed and they were easy to follow. Okay, thank you.
That might be when it sunsets.
Okay, okay. You have a question? Okay, Fund 132, miscellaneous capital grants. My own sheet.
I was going to say I can speak to this one because I think I put most stuff there. If we are intending to pursue grant dollars for any of the projects that were coming up, this was the fund that they were put in. Just the one that I can speak to that's there on the top, the downtown parking lot improvements. We've talked about that, the sponsored project funds, that there are capital grants, the sponsored project dollars that we're going to be getting for a project. So that's reflecting that, as well as our application to the Iowa Department of Agriculture should we get that. So it was really, this had to be the fund where we would sort of split things too if there was going to be a grant component to a capital project that was outside of Parks and Recreation. Or really, I guess, police and fire, or any other fund that it was a specific departmental donation fund.
And the other big item in here is the library edition for $500,000. So,
and that's where it's actually, that's just the grant portion of that. And I categorize Friends of the Library donations into this area as well. So keep in mind that when you look at that fund summary report, you're not seeing the project detail for the fund as a whole or for the project as a whole. It's splitting it by financial source on this one. So that's where you've got to look at those project detail sheets to get the full information about a project.
Because you'll see the other $500,000 coming from the TIF fund for the library. Any questions on this one? Okay, Fund 140, Parks and Rec Gift Fund. Donations are coming in, and then they go back out for the futsal courts. So that's all done in FY18. Fund 152, other police grants. Again, they get operating money grants, and then they just spend it back out. So, in and out. And then the fire department also has their own grants. Got the revenue for $19,000 and expense for $19,000. Fund 177, seized assets. They have a balance forward in fund balance. There's $3,000 coming in and then $3,000 going out. Don't know for sure that that's the amount. It's just, whatever they collect for the year. Could be more, could be less. Fund 190, the 9/11 surcharge reserve. Again, money coming in, money going back out. Fund 310, federal grant fund. This money is coming in. It gets transferred out. You'll see it in another place later.
I believe that was for our STP projects that were a 2016 calendar year project, 2015 calendar year project. So this is just federal reimbursement coming back to us for those expenses.
Right. I said that incorrectly. Sorry. Fund 312 airport projects. Here's your capital grant for the airport, and your rehab runway, and then your maintenance hangars. Again, we're hoping to get some grant money for that. Just so you know, if we have it on this sheet, if we are saying we're hoping for grant money, we're not going to spend it until we do. So, the bike path, money coming in from Region 6 and the SRT grant, and the money going back out. Fund 350 street program. You can see the money's being transferred in from the road use tax and the local option sales tax, and then our street expenses. $354 police and fire building. This is our bond money. So after year 20.
One of the things that I do want to comment on here is you'll notice that there are some equipment items there, copiers mostly, and then a server. As we were going through, those were in Fund 030, which is that tax levy fund. Not everything fits. We looked at these were going to be items that could be purchased in conjunction with the new building when basically they were scheduled to be replaced. And so that's where we put those here in this fund to be replaced as part of the new building project. Since we are currently $1.8 million under budget as of last update, I think. I don't know if that number has changed at all, but that was an area where the funding existed to support some of these ancillary costs, which will be updated with the new building.
So we have a server and several copiers. Fund 355, dangerous and dilapidated program. Spending down the fund balance for several years.
Spending down fund balance for several years, and then something that we also talked about at strategic planning was transferring in some money from local option sales tax. So we had sort of a revolving balance there that would help us get around sort of the questions of whether or not we had unspent bond proceeds. But then we've talked about what is the future viability of the project. As you can see there, there's $50,000 a year intended to be spent. That will get us through basically get us to fiscal year 2021, where we need to probably borrow $150,000 to basically re-up the balance for a few years. And so what this should represent to you is that right now we're sitting in an area where we've got a pot of money that we can still spend and handle some of those large expenses that come in. But we'll also be recommending a transfer in from local option sales tax at some point just to keep a base there. And then we'll have a planned borrowing as that time gets closer to continue to provide funding for that project if we haven't found a more sustainable funding source by that time.
Okay, Fund 356, the 2016 general obligation bonds. Again, we're just spending it down. Should be spent by the end of this fiscal year. Fund 382, public works facility. We had a little bit of money left over there. So we allocated some VoIP telephone money to this fund. So that'll be done at the end of this fiscal year. Fund 392, the TIF 3 fund. This would be the south area. Again, we talked about median improvements before in prior meetings. Fund 393, the TIF 4 fund, that's the downtown fund. So you can see those projects there. There's your city hall building improvements, 120,000. And you can see the library addition there coming out of TIF number 4. And then we have the Coliseum renovation for $2 million here. So we'll have to get funding for that somehow, because you can see we're going negative again. So either grants or bond, whatever you need to use for that. Fund 612, the water pollution control. Again, they're an enterprise fund, so we can use fees generated in their fund balance to pay for their projects. And they have a lot of projects. I'm just going to go through. Fund 615, the water pollution control improvements. Just spending that. Their allocation of the VoIP phone system. Again, we could use fees for this. Fund 616, sanitary sewer rehab. You have revenues coming in from bonds and from the SRF loan. And then the money being spent. $690, our transit system. We're expecting a federal grant for that, and then to buy a bus. Stormwater, it's also enterprise fund. So we're using charges for our revenues and our fund balance.
In that fund is, you're sharing some expense with the sewer department, right, to buy some equipment? Yeah. Percentage, 20, 30, 40, what's the breakdown? 60, 40? Okay. Thanks. That's all I needed.
Compost. Using our fund balance. We'll buy a trommel screen. In aquatic center concessions. We painted, you spent $20,000 to paint all but the lazy river this year. The other part was in the CIP 030. And that's all. So do you have any changes that you would like to see proposed?
I think the thing to remember is this is a first draft. If you do have any questions or comments, I mean, this is going to come back on January 22nd. There are some things that as we were going through related to negative balances and other things that we'll fix, or if there legitimately is a negative balance, like in the concession fund, we'll provide you an explanation of that so that you're aware of what's going on. But if you do have any questions about projects, I believe other than the sewer and the storm sewer, we provided you the project detail sheets on all of those other projects.
I have, maybe it's a dumb question, but when are we going to have a conversation about expanding the library? We're putting funds in there, and we're setting a year we're going to do it, and we're going to spend $1 million+ to do it. And we've never had that conversation in this organization, and I think it's time, if we're going to put money in the budget for it, I think it's time we have that conversation.
Yes, I've talked with Sarah and her library board president about having a joint library board and city council meeting here this spring to get that conversation started. They do have a certain amount of funding right now that would allow that process to start, and so that's where I think they certainly want to know that the council would be on board with that happening, and then talking about the timeline. No promises, but I have heard from the, I think was it the Friends of the Library that said they would like to do fundraising for everything if it's possible. So we don't really know kind of where we're at yet, but it's kind of, you know, there's a starting point. But I would assume, I think we said maybe March or April of this year to have that joint meeting where everybody comes together and starts that conversation. So it's not, that project is not in an immediate year where we're actually putting funding in place or putting steps in place to start securing funding. So having a conversation about that after, you know, or having a conversation after we approve a CIP where that project would be in there is not something that commits us to the timeline that's in there. It commits us to saying that we're going to have a discussion and figure out if it fits in there.
Okay. I think we need to have that discussion.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's a couple other little items, but I'll just They're not major, they're little.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Oh, jeez.
Let's go to discussion item number 10.11, fees for online customer payments.
Diana Steiner, Finance Director. So with our new software, it is possible for customers to get online to make payments for their bills to us. However, there is a fee. This startup cost is $800, and then there's an ongoing annual fee of $1,800. And in addition to that, there's a $1.25 charge per transaction from our software company, and a 2.95% fee with a $2 minimum transaction fee. So our current policy and our cash management policy states payments for services may be accommodated using credit card remittances for the payer's convenience when paying fines, purchases, etc. This method can reduce remittance, processing, and bank float. And then it says, the drawback to this method of payment is that the surcharge cannot be passed on to the payer if those paying by other methods are not assessed the added charge. So we would like to strike that last sentence so we can pass on the fees to the customer. So they would be paying the $1.25 to our software company, which will just show up on their statement. So if it's a $50 charge that they're paying, it's going to show up as $51.25. And then we're also asking that they pay the transaction charge for the credit card fee, which is $2 or 2.95%. So this puts the city at a neutral position except for the original outlay and the ongoing fees, but at least we won't be charging the ongoing transaction fees.
So the guy's gonna pay $53.50. For a
$53.25.
$25.
$1.25 per transaction.
A lot of people are willing to do that, I know. And my only question is, will we still accept checks and cash?
Yes.
Instead. So this is purely just for those who want the convenience, or they think they'll get enough points or whatever on there.
Yeah.
Which they won't, but whatever. Some people do, maybe. So as long as we'll still take cash or check, I think that's fine. And then what happens when someone writes a bad check? Do we have a plan for that? Do you
Well,
know?
somebody writes a back check, it goes to collections.
Yep. They pay all the fees that we incur, if we incur any fees, right?
If we can get them to, yeah. Yeah. We charge them.
Okay. Yeah.
But another reason why we'd like to have the customer pay it is because some of our customers have pretty big balances. For example, we have a contract with Iowa Veterans Home for about $98,000 for fire and police. Well, we don't want them paying by credit card. That's a huge amount of money for us. That'd be about $3,000 that we'd lose. So by putting it on their terms, then they can pay for it. They choose to pay it or not. So, and we don't really have any statistics at this point of how many people would participate in it.
Can you do bank transfers?
Like in EFT?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Not through our current system, no.
Not through the system? Okay.
One of the things that
we initiate it. We do some bank transfers, but we initiate it. The finance department initiates it with their approval.
We can see if it's something that the new system will allow. Well, one of the things that Sherry and I kind of talked about was where this will likely be used. Somebody who's at the county treasurer's office and has a parking ticket or something to pay in order to renew their license plates, they could easily then pull out their phone, make a payment right then and there. They don't have to come here. There's a lot of holding of tax returns that we do at the state of Iowa with income offset. If you have a $500 return and you owe us $100, the easiest way, pick up your phone or computer, make that payment online, and then we go about releasing it. So it's probably situations where we have back due debt, where something is being held, that this would be the time when it would be used. We don't really have a lot of regular ongoing charges for different individuals, but there are probably some other areas. If we can kind of get some of the Parks and Rec stuff on the website as well, that'll probably be something where it'd be heavily used too.
So just to give you a heads up, the parking module's a little bit different. We haven't implemented it yet, but this that I'm talking about right now is for our accounts receivable. The parking will go through Tyler software as well, but if they go online and pay their parking ticket and pay an accounts receivable, they'll get twice the transaction fees. So they'll get $1.25 for each one.
Any other questions or discussion about the fees?
Roger, see a reason to, if we drop that last sentence, cause any problems?
I couldn't figure out why it was there to begin with. but,
Okay, all right.
I don't see a problem with it. The only thing I wonder is if we do need to itemize what charges they may have in addition.
Well, or at least
Clarification's sake, I mean, as I understand, Diane, you were talking about a $3.25 charge. But that could be more, couldn't it, based
Yes.
upon the amount?
Whether it's a percentage or a minimum fee, yeah.
Right, and so maybe we need to talk that in the event of a usage of a credit card, the payor would incur whatever those costs are.
Well, usually when you go online to pay, it tells you at that point that you will be, what your transaction fee is going to be charged, and then you can either cancel or go ahead.
Okay. Yeah,
So they'll know at that point.
I think it'd be nice to have in there that the kind of charges they're gonna incur. I think we need to clarify that a little bit.
I think we
You
can
can leave
easily.
it pretty open.
Well, and that's where I was going to say, I think the best way to define it is convenience fees and processing charges. That's really what they are. There's the convenience fee, that's basically the software provider, and then the actual credit card processing fee. So it's those two fees which come together to make the total. So if this is agreeable to move forward, that's something that we can certainly spell out in the language, and then always say reference whatever agreement might be in place for that provider.
So there are two other departments that also take credit cards right now, Parks and Rec, and they run that through their ActiveNet software. And their fees are different than this is. And the library, they also, they are currently just running it through our United Bank and Trust account at the bank. They do not charge fees. So there's some inconsistency across departments as well.
But the difference is that the library board makes their own decisions as a separate entity, so that's where they can choose to do something different than our cash management policy. And ultimately, in talking with Parks and Recreation, that's something where if we get this portal built on our website, then that's just the piece that they need to basically stop using the current software that they have and basically start using our website completely for activities and facilities bookings.
But that would be one reason why you don't want to tie yourself down necessarily to
Yes.
putting an amount in the policy.
Yeah. I don't think amount, but a description of the charges would be fine.
Any reason that Diana shouldn't assume we have a consensus about that then? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Down to item number 10.111, second ward vacancy candidates. It was my understanding before I got here today that we would probably be opening the floor and having a motion and a second and taking a vote, but I'm told by our city attorney that may not be possible. Do I have that right, Roger?
Well, the way the matter is listed is it's a discussion matter, and I don't believe that a vote can or should be taken other than possibly a directive to staff.
and to clarify, that's what it was a motion and a second to direct the city clerk to prepare a resolution for the January 22nd meeting with a name in that resolution. And so it was not to basically complete the appointment tonight, but to provide the direction necessary to the city clerk to move forward that process in preparation for the January 22nd meeting.
Are we anticipating then a motion and a second tonight then?
If we don't do that tonight, then we would need a special meeting basically before the 22nd in order to complete that appointment at the 22nd. Otherwise, we do have special meetings coming up for budget on the 29th and February 5th before we then get into our regular February meeting.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Question, if I can ask. We talked about, is it possible to have a closed session for this issue?
No, not unless there are candidates who wish to have their candidacy discussed in a closed session. They can request it. The council can't, of its own volition, go into closed session.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to make a motion, but the reason I asked that question is like I told you the other day, that I have no idea what these other guys are thinking. I have an idea what a couple of them are thinking, but I don't think we've had the proper discussion, because it would be different if we had one really good candidate and 3 bad ones, but we got 4 good ones. And it's going to be really hard to pick which one of the 4 we want without having conversations with everybody else. And so if these guys aren't willing to talk about it, I'm not going to vote on it because I want to hear what everybody else thinks. And if we can't do that in closed session, if we're going to be at an open session, I don't know. We're not going to hear all those comments in open session. So I don't know what to do.
Mr. Saunders?
My understanding of closed sessions is that if you guys want to go into one, it has to be on the agenda prior to the meeting. Right. So
it also has to be requested by those to be discussed in closed session. Okay. There is no intention of going into a closed session tonight, nor was there when the agenda was drafted.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you.
You're right. Yeah, I knew that.
If you're going to address this, would you please stand up here, talk into the microphone, introduce yourself, and give your address?
Gary Thompson, 601 East Main. Why are you reluctant to discuss the 4 candidates in front of the constituents? And if you are reluctant to discuss it in front of us, since none of them are requesting a closed session, then I ask you not to fill, not appoint. Let the electors of Second Ward decide who they want to fill Joel's vacant seat.
I think that's a great idea.
So either make a motion and say, yeah, we appreciate your time. We screwed up with First Ward. We're not going to screw up with Second Ward. You know, we'll let the electors decide. Either that or discuss it right now in front of all of us and make a motion and appoint somebody. Thank you.
And the floor is open for that motion. And if there is none, then we'll assume that we either go into a special section, we either have a special session again or let it ride.
So, Your Honor, because I usually speak up first, I was really just trying to let someone else talk tonight. So, can someone walk through the steps if we were to appoint tonight and a petition came forward for a special election? That special election would happen maybe around the end of March. Is that what I heard?
Okay, well, we can't appoint tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Sorry,
but
yeah, but if we said, yeah, we want to appoint someone, so we're going to plan on it on the 22nd, and then a petition comes forward for a
Okay.
special election. About when would the special election happen? Do you know?
The council has to make a decision to appoint within 60 days of the vacancy. I'm just going to put that out there first.
Okay.
If the council would appoint on the 22nd, that would mean I have to publish another notice in the paper saying that you intend to appoint on the 22nd. So there starts a 14-day period. The petition could be received on the date of the publication, and then on the 22nd, if the council were to appoint, the petition could be accepted, received within 14 days after that appointment. The minimum number of days, the window of having an election is 32 days or 90 days following receipt of the petition requesting the special election.
Between 32 days and 90 days from the receipt of the petition.
That would
following
be
the
when the
appointment.
special
Okay.
election would have to be scheduled. And there are a few blackout dates. I had talked to Nan and we identified a date in February that wasn't, but since we're not even going to be there, I don't know what the other blackout dates are for March or April or May.
So it could be a few months before we have someone.
And the special election, when it's held, since Joel's seat, or the second ward seat, is through December 31st of 2019, the individual that's elected on that special election would fill through 2031 of 2019.
12/31.
So, yeah, so like with this, with Sue, we swore her in early because she had to be sworn in 10 days after because Dan was an appointee. This would actually be someone fulfilling a term through if they're elected.
So if we don't appoint and we decide to have a special election, what would the timing on that look like?
If you decide tonight that you're going to direct me to do you don't intend to appoint, I don't know if we could have that motion, but it could start the ball rolling that staff, we could make that formal motion on the 22nd and then start the ball rolling for a special election on the 22nd.
Which again would probably not happen until March, April, or May.
We'd
based
have our
on the blackout
32
date.
days through the 90 days after the 22nd.
So the timing is about the same for a special election, whether we order one or there's a petition asking for one.
I would imagine in this case, because I anticipate on the same day or shortly after you appoint, I would be receiving the petition again, or after the public notice comes in. But it would be the same, January 22nd would probably be the same day, because that would be the day that you would appoint. And I'd have the petition in hand, so your appointment would be negated by the receipt of the special petition.
Just a correction, the appointee would still stay in that seat, so it wouldn't be negated. It would that person would still sit in the second ward seat and represent the second ward until a special election had been held.
Right, thank you.
Question? What do the candidates have to do for a special election? What are their requirements?
Part of that 32-day process between the 22nd and the first 32nd day of when we could have the special election, the county auditor needs at least 25 days for all special elections, so that gives the county auditor the time to prepare the special election, and it would also give the candidates time to do their nomination petition and their candidate, or their affidavit of candidacy.
Okay. Well, I can make a motion, whether, and you guys can vote it down if you don't want to. I would like to have a motion to direct staff to start the process for a special election, and do that as soon as possible. I think that's all I need to say, isn't it?
Can I clarify, are you going to include a desire regarding appointment until that special election is?
No appointment until the special, elected from the second ward put somebody in there that they want, not us.
So that was a motion to direct staff to proceed with special election and not to appoint.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just one question. I know if I'm correct, by state law, we had a 60-day window that we had to appoint someone. Now, with us voting as we're going to for a special election, that negates that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think we'll clarify, but I think if you take this action tonight, then there would be a resolution on the January 22nd meeting directing the city clerk to contact the county auditor to set up a special election to fill that vacancy and provide that formal direction. And so, yes, I mean, you would then, I mean, technically you have to take action by 60 days. You don't have to take an action to approve that resolution until basically the end of those 60 days.
So basically what we're doing now is
you would be starting the
satisfy that.
process
Okay.
before your 60-day time period was up.
Okay. Thank you.
Public comment?
Oh, can I just make one more?
You may.
Or it's more of a question. All right, if we sit 3-3 for 2 or 3 months, I'm sure we'll have nothing controversial come up, and we'll always vote all together, and at least always have 4-2 votes, right? So is there you never break a tie, right, Mr. Mayor, in your role?
There's no tie breaking.
So just want to caution everybody. That's why I've always been in favor of appointments. I think appointments are helpful to keep the ball rolling on things, and we're in budget season. So if you think we're all going to agree on everything the next couple months, then fine.
If this council cannot operate with 6 council people deciding something, then it shouldn't be decided and should be delayed until there is a 7th. Simple as that if it gets into 3-3 tie.
Which we can't do in budget season.
No.
I was going to say, you would not want to budget on a 3-3
No,
tie because that
no.
means that you're not certifying anything and we're stuck.
Right. Yeah. Ben Fletcher, 609 North 16th Street, Marshalltown. Seems to me the decision was made previously to appoint somebody. Mm-hmm. And I do think, I agree with Mr. Lamer that you had 4 quality candidates. I am a second ward resident. I would like to see the seat filled. I think you've got options. If a petition comes forward to do a special election afterwards, I'd be happy to vote in that as well. But I think we've got good options, and I'd like to hear who you prefer, and would hope to hear somebody appointed at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? It's been moved and seconded then that we direct the city staff to start the process for a special election. Call the roll, please.
Lamer?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Weirin?
No.
Cahill?
No.
Gowdy?
No.
Hoop?
No.
Motion failed.
Okay, Your Honor. Then I would move that we appoint, and it really was a tough decision, but in my view, Mr. Carollo would make a good council member, and I move that we appoint Mr. Carollo.
Is there a second to that?
I would second that.
Any discussion?
See, you won't tell us why. 'Cause somebody talk out
Why,
here.
well, to counter that, Mr. Lamer, then you tell me why not.
I'm not going to say I'm not going to say anything against Jay because I know Jay, and Jay's a good guy and he'd do a good job. I just want to know why. What made you pick that person over the other three, and the other three are as good as they are?
I would say that he has lived here 55 years and has been on several commissions and has a working knowledge of city government.
Okay, good. Thanks. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, I like his experience, and think he came across as very educated and, can get along well with others, and that's part of the job.
Ms. Martin?
I question the process at this point because we were in for discussion. It was not on the official act of business for the council. And I say this is out of order. I suggest to you, Mr. Mayor, and to Roger as well, that we're out of order at this point. And no action should be taken if this is where we are, if we are to obey what we said we put out to do. I can't accept it then. I didn't realize you're going to go ahead with a motion. Otherwise, I would have made a motion.
To be clear,
understand
I did
where I'm
include
coming
in
from?
my memo and outline that the expectation for discussion tonight was to provide the direction to the city clerk with a motion and a second on who to place in a resolution for the January 22nd agenda, where that would be where the formal action would take place by the council.
Would that go then beyond the discussion that was listed on the official agenda? Was that to be expected?
I don't believe so. The actual vote on the appointment would take place at a meeting on the 22nd of January.
Precisely. That's what my understanding
But
is.
the back page of this agenda states that there will be a motion to direct staff to make a resolution as to who we voted on tonight. Not selecting a person, directing staff right there on the back page of the agenda.
And my understanding of our change in the rules of operating was that during discussion we could do this by having a motion and a second and a vote to then direct staff what they should do for the next meeting, which is my understanding of what's happening. If I'm wrong, though, I invite our city council to correct me.
And I would say by seconding this, I think it was missed again, the opportunity to discuss people, which was not being done. So the option was to make a motion.
Yeah.
I believe that the procedure thus far is adequate and correct. If there's any disappointment, it's the lack of prior discussion.
Any other discussion by the council members?
Just a little input because of I've known Jay for quite a while, and I thought everybody gave enough credibility to their answers. I think as far as my position, it's been known that I do like the young people to move forward. Bethany was my first choice, or Brittany, I'm sorry. But I also made the comment to the mayor that I was willing to go along with the rest to put somebody in this position, knowing at that point that Mr. Eaton had garnered enough other signatures on his petition to bring that forward. So that being said, I guess with the motion and the second that I would agree that probably we need to just go ahead with an appointment, and hopefully that every one of you still runs. It's to me, it's short term. If indeed somebody gets appointed, it's going to be short unless it's the same person. So that being said, that's all I have to say.
There's a motion on the floor.
Is there any other further discussion?
I would, again, thank our candidates that all came forward. I do believe that we had good candidates, and I would, Mr. Carrillo would not be my first choice as we go forward due to a very, the makeup of the board, I think, becomes kind of one-sided in our demographics. And I'll leave it at that.
Would the two of you like to comment?
Yes, we would.
Okay.
Brittany O'Shea of 104 Highland Acres Road.
Lee Botter, 401 Orchard Drive.
We wanted to point out a few things. The memo is sort of null and void since it's Jim Lawrence is the mayor on there, and the council listed at the bottom includes.
That's just a communication from me.
And we also didn't receive it. Being the interviewees, we did not receive that. We didn't get a copy of this, even though it says as a follow-up to the interviews. Anyways, if it would make life easier, both of us are willing to request a closed-door session if that's what it takes to further this process along.
We don't want you to be at an impasse, so closed session I would recommend. And I think Jay's a great guy, too.
Yes.
I am very humbled to have the opportunity of sitting Friday with the other candidates. It amazed me at the quality of my peers that I sat there at the table with, and actually on the phone. So thank you for your time, because I know it was a long process on Friday.
Thank you. Oh boy, did I pick a bad meeting for my first regular public city council meeting.
You did a great job. What are you talking about?
It's terrible.
All downhill from now.
Yeah,
There you go.
that is true.
It's broken.
Let's do roll call.
Martin?
So what, can you clarify what we are voting on, please?
Yes, the roll call is to vote, the motion and second were to direct the clerk to prepare for a candidate to be voted on at the next regular meeting, and that candidate is Jay Carrillo.
May I ask where the request of the other two candidates comes into play in this to go to a closed session?
Yeah, I'm just not smart enough to know if only two candidates have requested a closed session and the other two have not, how we can have a half-closed session. I'm just not smart enough to figure that out.
Well, we can't have a closed session today.
With two attorneys, somebody ought to be able to figure it out.
I don't get the bill for this one.
As I said, you can't have a closed session today.
No, but we could at our next meeting.
And my understanding would be if we are voting on the motion that is out on the table now, it would have to be defeated for us to request a closed session. Is that correct?
Correct.
We cannot request a closed session.
Or to honor the candidate's request for a closed session.
Right. I assume if this motion doesn't carry, we would have the power to put it on the next agenda that we are requesting to go into a closed session. And if it's on the agenda, then we can do it. But again, I don't know if Mr. Carrillo and Mr. Unteat don't request a closed session, how that impacts them or affects them.
I have a question about closed session. So we've got two candidates willing to go into closed session, and the council wants to speak independently of the candidates. So do the candidates get to be in the closed session?
No.
No.
Okay.
That's why we're having a closed session.
Your Honor, question here. If this motion is defeated, can another motion be brought up?
We certainly can direct staff to do something else, yes.
Okay.
Call the roll, please.
Martin,
No.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
No.
Gowdy,
No.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lamer.
No.
Motion failed.
Motion failed.
4-2.
Are there any other motions to be made?
So I'd make a motion to bring Brittany O'Shea into the conversation and move forward with that.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Not sure what that.
Is there a second to that?
Wait, stop.
Wait,
I don't understand the motion.
Are you saying to move forward with directing the city clerk to place the name of Brittany O'Shea in the
Yes.
resolution for January 22nd?
Okay.
Second.
Discussion.
Suffice it to say, not my first choice, which you already knew. So,
I would agree that that is not my first choice either.
Why don't you guys just discuss this? You're already doing it anyway.
Any other discussion? Let's call the roll on this one.
Weirin,
no.
Cahill,
No.
Gowdy,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Lamer,
No.
Martin.
No.
Failed 4-2.
Did I predict this or what?
You did.
Out of motions here.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I would suggest a motion. With that same motion, putting Bob Utite in for that vote tonight, now.
I second the motion.
Discussion about the motion to direct staff to put Bob Bunting's name in for consideration at the next meeting. Call the roll.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy,
No.
Hoop,
No.
Lamer,
Nope.
Martin,
Yes.
Weirin.
It doesn't really matter what I say.
Give us your vote.
No.
Your Honor.
Motion failed.
Yes,
Your Honor. I would suggest that that we direct the staff to prepare for a closed session at our next regular meeting, to be held at the end of the meeting, as requested by two of the candidates for the office.
Is there a second to that motion?
I guess we're not going to get anything done, Joel.
Yes. I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
Currently, right now, we only have one valid candidate, correct?
Turn three of them down.
So your closed session would be what?
I'm assuming the closed session would be to consider the merits of all the candidates, but to do it as if it were like a personnel issue.
Well, the closed session is to come from the person who's being discussed. Two people have indicated to the council that they would want their nomination to be discussed in a closed session. They could be discussed in a closed session.
And procedurally, to get that done, I need them to sign a waiver that's saying that they're requesting the closed session. So I would need them to do that prior to the meeting.
Go ahead, Ben.
Ben Fletcher, 609 North 16th Street. I would encourage you to not do this in a closed session. I don't think that would be received well well, wouldn't be received well by me, and I don't think would be received well by the community at large. I would like to hear, I guess, from each of you your preferences and the reasons for those preferences, and I would like to see an appointment made. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Agree.
How the school board, were their interviews open to the public when they interviewed for the school board?
Ben's probably the best one to answer that.
Were they open to public or were they closed?
The interviews were public. Yeah.
They were
What
public.
about
They were public. I don't think they were.
The deliberations.
Yeah.
I wasn't, honestly, I don't know how they deliberated. No, I don't think they were, I don't know if there were deliberations. There wasn't much discussion at the meeting where there was an appointment, but I couldn't say the exact process before that.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Rosenblum, 1512 Calston Boulevard. I do live in the second ward, and I think what Ben is saying has some merit.
Thank you. Well, by this time, I'm hungry. It's getting late, and I've forgotten what the motion was or where it stands. I think we do have a motion in a second, do we not?
Yeah, motion to direct staff to prepare closed session on the next agenda.
Yeah, the second.
Yes,
Okay.
Lamer and Weirin.
There we go. Let's call the roll on that one.
Gowdy,
No.
Hoop,
No.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
No.
Weirin,
No.
Cahill.
No.
Motion failed.
Okay. Any other motions?
No further discussion.
I make a motion to present the, help me out in my wording here, to arrange for an election from the second ward.
Second.
We've already had that.
We're reconsidering.
We did that
Because we
once.
voted against it. We can do that, right?
Okay. Yep. If you voted against it, you can bring it back on the table. Discussion about the motion to direct the staff to have a special election.
I'm bringing it back on the table because I can see we're at different places, and I'm not sure we can convince each other even with open discussion. We had very good candidates, but we are just in a different place, each of us in our preferences of who we would like elected. I do think it's very important that the people of the second ward get the choice, and if we can't come to a consensus now on the candidates, I do think that we need to put it back to the people.
I agree. I agree.
Any other discussion? If not, let's call the roll on this one.
Hoop,
No.
Lamer,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Weirin,
Yes.
Cahill,
Yes.
Gowdy.
Yes.
5-1 carries.
Carried. Thank you. We're at that point now where we're open to public comment, if anybody has any. Seeing no one rushing to the microphone, let's call the meeting to close at 7:58 p.m. Thank you.